Here I am nodding along with colleagues, thinking everything that can be said has been said. And yet, I think colleagues would understand and not be surprised that I have quite a bit to say anyway. So, first of all, thank you to Council President Albornoz, to Joy Nerby, and your whole team for shepherding us through this budget cycle. It's been an adventure, but bumpy roads lead to beautiful places, and it certainly hasn't been easy, but you did make it look that way throughout this process. So thank you for that. Thank you to Marlene Michelson, to Craig Howard, and to the entire central staff team for doing yeoman's work and getting us across the finish line today, and for this team approach that we talked about earlier, which I really do think has made this process work a lot better for us on the dais, but more importantly for the residents who we are elected to serve. Every member of the team here, on all of our office staffs, on central staff, and throughout county government, executive branch as well, deserves a round of applause and probably a nap. So hopefully you get a chance to take one of those this afternoon and into this evening. And I just wanted to take a moment of personal privilege to thank my team, Cindy, Mary, Matt, Angela, and Angie. I have such an incredible team. District 1 is so well represented and served by you, and I am deeply, deeply grateful for all of your hard work. COVID-19 has shined a light on so many challenges in our community, exposing how many of our neighbors throughout the county are one paycheck away from missing a meal or being able to access the needed services and healthcare to live. But it's also showed us how we can adapt and change and partner beyond government to provide residents with the services and supports they need to not only survive, but to thrive. This budget helps us build a stronger foundation for future success and prosperity based on the lessons that we've learned over these past 2 incredibly challenging years. I am pleased to report that funding the fiscal year 2023 operating budget required no new taxes, recognizing that many of our residents are still struggling to make ends meet. When the county executive recommended an unprecedented $20 million withdrawal from the County Retiree Health Benefits Trust to fund current obligations, this council stepped up to unanimously reject it. Reaffirming our commitment to our retirees and to sound fiscal management was among my top priorities for this budget. And I was very proud to help lead this effort along with Council President Albornoz, GO Committee Chair Navarro, and all of our colleagues on this council. That major commitment, however, didn't prevent us from also fulfilling our promise to tackle our housing and climate crises simultaneously. In fact, we doubled down on our efforts with historic investments to provide record dollars to support our declarations that we've made to county residents. In response to our critical affordable housing needs, I was pleased to work with Councilmember Reamer to double our investment in what is now a nationally recognized revolving housing production fund, which will now reach $100 million and help us build nearly 6,000 new affordable units over the next 2 decades. The County Council also approved one-time funding of $40 million to support acquisition and preservation of at-risk, naturally occurring affordable housing, and added another $6 million to reach a total of $20 million to the county executive's recently created Housing Opportunity Fund, so that our nonprofit affordable housing providers can continue their work despite labor shortages, rising interest rates, and dramatically higher construction costs. We cannot stop the progress that we've been making on this crisis. I was also pleased to work with my Fed colleagues, Councilmembers Jawando and Reamer, to continue our efforts to support first-time home buyers by adding an additional $1 million in funding again this year to help more residents afford their first homes in Montgomery County. Thanks to the passage of the Montgomery County Buildings Now Act that Councilmember Hucker and I sponsored, this budget includes $18.6 million for the Montgomery County Green Bank, which will be leveraged with substantial private dollars to help businesses and residents retrofit their buildings to be more energy efficient. We must not only reduce greenhouse gas emissions, we also must increase our environmental resiliency for the damage that's already been done. I've been pushing for several years to double the funding for storm drain retrofit projects to address severe flooding in our neighborhoods. And I am pleased that this budget, as proposed by the executive and supported by the council, now fulfills this urgent need for our environment, for our safety, and for our quality of life. And as part of those quality of life measures as well, this budget also includes $4 million to maintain and expand our tree canopy and restores $1 million to patch and resurface roads. These are core government responsibilities, and we are living up to these obligations. The health of our local economy is always on my mind, especially as we rise to the challenge of recovering from this pandemic. This year's budget includes increased funding for the Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation, which is tasked with attracting and retaining employers to the county. I'm particularly pleased about the direct assistance for disproportionately impacted Black-owned businesses, additional support for Visit Montgomery to support our hard-hit hospitality and tourism sectors, and the inclusion of business development district grants to promote placemaking and marketing efforts in some of our county's existing and emerging commercial areas like North Bethesda and Friendship Heights. This capital budget includes critical transportation funding to advance the build-out of our bus rapid transit network, including on Rockville Pike and with the North Bethesda Transitway near the 270 spur. Despite the county executive's decision to delay the replacement of the Capitol Crescent Trail Tunnel, we fought hard, again, to make room for this $55 million project amidst a long list of priority capital projects, and were able to stave off 2.5 years from the proposed delays. We also moved the needle on the Tuckerman Lane sidewalk and bikeway project and made space for Summit Avenue Extended, a long-standing town of Kensington transportation priority, which will provide relief to traffic-burdened Connecticut Avenue. This budget also restores significant cuts to our parks and trails and includes critical funding for the exciting new park at the Women's Farm Market in Bethesda, which will bring to fruition a chief priority of the 2018 Bethesda Downtown Plan. Our nonprofit partners are the extra layers of mesh in our social safety net that prevents countless vulnerable residents from falling through the cracks. I am so pleased to work with colleagues to include a well-deserved 8% inflationary adjustment to help our community-based organizations meet the increased economic needs and service demands. The Nourishing Bethesda effort, which I have been proud to support from its inception, is one example of a partnership between faith, nonprofit, business, and community leaders that feeds hundreds and hundreds of families each and every Friday at the BCC Rescue Squad. This budget provides $250,000 for that effort to expand their food assistance model and include wraparound services. I'm also very grateful to colleagues on the Health and Human Services Committee for supporting my request to add $132,000 for community farm share in this budget to provide weekly fresh produce bags from local farms to the homes of 200 families in need as part of a collaboration with Linkages to Learning and Montgomery County Public Schools. Similarly, I am particularly pleased that we were able to add $50,000 to help Nonprofit Village with their capacity building and support for our local-based organizations, and $100,000 to support a wider circle's critical efforts to help our residents return to the workforce. This budget recognizes the value of investing in our young people by inspiring them, by fostering their interests, and by equipping them with knowledge and life skills, by fully funding Montgomery County Public Schools and Montgomery College's programmatic requests, and providing unprecedented investments in our students' mental health and well-being, especially including the $5.5 million to dramatically expand high school wellness centers led by Councilmember Navarro. After many years of stops and starts, the Noyes Library for Young Children has been finally funded. And thanks to our state partners and a significant county commitment, construction is now scheduled to begin this fiscal year. Colleagues and I were able to provide $1.8 million for Kid Museum to provide experiential hands-on learning and scientific discovery at the new flagship site at Bethesda Metro through an extraordinary partnership that they've developed with Montgomery County Public Schools. The council continues to work towards greater police accountability while simultaneously ensuring our first responders have the resources they need to keep our communities safe. While there is much work to be done to address recruitment and retention challenges in public safety, I am pleased that we raised police pay to be more competitive regionally, took steps to address the ongoing fairness issues within the pay scale, and thanks to Council Vice President Glass's proposal, expanded the cadet program. I'm also pleased that this budget includes $800,000 in nonprofit security grants for organizations at high risk of experiencing hate crimes. This builds on the successful initiative I worked with the executive branch to spearhead last year by adding an additional $100,000 more in funding to protect vulnerable facilities and the residents who occupy them on a daily basis. Finally, I'm very pleased that the Public Safety Committee and this council responded to my request to finally support the Bethesda Chevy Chase Rescue Squad's calls to have equitable access to the central maintenance facility, like every other squad across the county, so they can continue to provide critical emergency services to our residents. This budget meets this moment, and it helps us build a strong foundation to meet the moments that follow. Thank you to all the Montgomery County residents who testified in multiple languages, at home, in person, in more accessible ways than we have ever been able to provide before. You made this process better, and the final budget that we have now preliminarily approved is better because of it. Our county will be stronger, our community will be stronger, and it's thanks to the active participation and engagement of our residents who have stepped up as part of this process. Thanks to you, thanks to colleagues, thanks to our staff, and I yield back to you, Mr. President.